All right, just waiting for this to load. Right, so here is my work that I've done around planning the external engagements, which will commence later on this year. So the purpose for these activities that I've come up with is gaining a better understanding of the things that our stakeholders want to be included in the future contracts that would benefit them all, obviously with a focus on our health goals that we've set as a council. So looking at hashtag 2035, which is based around shortening, the health gap and making it more equitable for all of our residents. So going into this sequentially, we'll first look at the divergence stage. In this stage, as it's the initial stage of the engagements and stuff, I personally felt that there needed to be a big focus on trust building, something that's been identified multiple times, not just in our department, but across the council, is that a lot of residents tend to feel distrust towards the council. Maybe they also feel like they're not really properly being heard and their grievances aren't being dealt with appropriately. So we want to establish a safe space, so to speak, making sure that residents feel comfortable engaging with us during this period of time and empowering them to speak openly and honestly, because at the end of the day, we want them to feel comfortable and we want to glean the best information that we can from them. And I feel like them being comfortable would help with that. After that, we want to make sure that we're establishing the purpose of these engagements. And this really is just a step to make sure that everyone's on the same page, which obviously with the initial survey that would go out and stuff as a precursor to this, there would be that assumption that everyone knows what the engagements will be about, but obviously just to double check and stuff, because that never hurts. And then also during this stage, we would have the initial idea generation that would be taking place and just kind of telling our residents just literally anything that you can think of that's in relation to the topic of discussion. Just get all your ideas down. Like, we don't want there to be a feeling that there are any right or wrong ideas. It's really just looking at the things that our participants are thinking about and stuff while visiting these themes. So in terms of the methods, I looked at potential methods for each of these three aspects of the divergent stage that I've talked about in the module. So for trust building, obviously icebreakers, that's a no-brainer. Getting everyone comfortable with each other, just like by giving that initial introduction and stuff, and keeping it fun and light and stuff, even though these are in a way formal engagements and we are talking about important topics. We want to keep a sort of light-hearted energy about it as well. Also, and this is also just like a precursor to that ideating stage of it, doing some word association. So I was thinking we could have a bunch of words that are based off of sentiments that we've gleaned from our older data and stuff, and people can just go up and basically just think of anything that comes to mind, just capture that. So then in terms of establishing the purpose, the methods there, having a look at the survey responses and stuff, just to help with that initial idea generation, and also once again looking at what people are thinking about the initial themes that have come up. And then the creative matrix, getting everyone to jot down their ideas, their personal sentiments about the specific facilities. It will most likely be a case that will perhaps split up each cohort of participants, perhaps in terms of their own local EA run facilities. That might make things a bit easier. And so for this stage, I wanted to go with basically anyone that would be using leisure facilities or using the parks and green spaces, so park goers, current EA users, fitness groups as well. In terms of locations, and these locations will mostly remain the same throughout this entire phase of external engagement. So obviously our EA run facilities, which in this case are Mobley, the Queen Mother Sports Centre, Porchester, Paddington Rec, perhaps Little Venice as well. I'd have to double check on that. Also, as we'll be reaching out to fitness groups as well to participate, perhaps if they tend to congregate at locations that aren't necessarily EA run facilities, we would perhaps go to them there as well. The idea here is rather than having residents come to us, we want to go to them. We want to be in their playgrounds, for lack of a better words, which would also help with them feeling comfortable enough to speak to us. And so this first phase I've theorised would happen between May and June. Might have to change. Actually, no, sorry. Yeah, so May and June, and they would roughly be 1 to 2 hour workshops. So the emergent stage, this is where we want our residents to start consolidating the ideas from the previous phase of workshops. Also having a look at, because they would have had some time between the divergence and emergence stage, seeing if anything's still relevant, just with relation to the conversations that they would have had during that time and stuff, and then possibly adding new sentiments to the conversation, and then consolidating all of that and starting to have different categories and themes come up through this, and that will be done through a grouping exercise. As stated before, we would have all of the external stakeholders from the previous stage of engagement, but also bringing in community organisations as well as everyone active who I personally envisage as being on the other side in terms of being the providers and those that would support these services and stuff. So having their input at this stage, I think, would be useful. And so this stage would be between July and August, roughly. These workshops would be a bit longer. Actually, perhaps they could even be up to 3 hours, potentially. Let me just pop that there. And so for the final stage, we're now looking at all of these ideas that have been reworked. We're looking at the themes that have come up throughout the external engagement so far, and now we're looking at formulating actionable solutions that are relevant and things that can be achieved within a specific time frame. Perhaps it's something that would be properly put into effect after the new contract has been created. And so, yeah, just looking at that data and also contextualizing it in terms of our larger mission as a council, in terms of getting people more comfortable with being active and supporting them in creating healthier lifestyles for themselves, in turn, just creating a healthier society. And so here we would have all of our external stakeholders, again, at these EA-run facilities and community centres, and this would mainly be between an hour to an hour and a half in the month of September. And so, yeah, that's my initial thought patterns towards how we could do these external engagements. Thank you for listening.